Welcome to BioShock. Like I said in my Titanfall live stream, I will be doing this as a series. I will be going through all of them. I've only done Infinite on my channel, which was like 3 episodes long, because my internet was not good enough, but I will be doing every single BioShock series on their hardest difficulty, including Big Brass Balls. Yes, that's the name of the trophy on BioShock 2, but I will be doing it on its hardest difficulty. And I'll also be doing the infamous 1999 mode and 1998 on Burial at Sea. So, we are gonna do Survivor. And that is gonna be the name. It will be Survivor. Every bullet counts.
They told me, son, you're special. You were born to do great things. You know what? They were right.
And everyone on there dies except for him. Because that's how it obviously goes, but I remember when this game got announced to be remastered for PS4, everybody lost their shit. I've played through these games on their hardest difficulty off camera, but I'm doing them on camera to show you guys how to do it. Options, do I have subtitles on? Where are my subtitles? Yes, yes. There we go. The infamous lighthouse. And yes, fire can ignite water. It's just as simple as it is. But here we are, the infamous lighthouse. I haven't played this game in a couple years. So it's gonna be very interesting. Adjust my sensitivity. Every episode's gonna be an hour long, of course. Because that's normally how long my live streams are. So, let's see how this goes. I think one man helped build all this.
I am Andrew Ryan, and I'm here to ask you a question. Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his brow? No, says the man in Washington, it belongs to the poor. No, says the man in the Vatican, it belongs to God. No, says the man in Moscow, it belongs to everyone. I rejected those answers. Instead, I chose something different. I chose the impossible. I chose Rapture. A city where the artist would not fear the censor, where the scientist would not be bound by petty morality, where the great would not be constrained by the small. And with the sweat of your brow, Rapture can become your city as well.
There's the Big Daddy. Some of these spastic saving. The 1-2 combo does not work in this, by the way, when you first start out. It's gonna be a bitch. It literally is. The starting point of this game is a fucking bitch to get going on this mode. But I'm here in Rapture.
Just one more minute. Spear's coming up now. Johnny, security's banging off all over. Get a move on. No trespass. Don't hurt me. Just let me go. Just give me my gun.
Is it someone new?
Would you kindly pick up that shortwave radio?
I don't know how you survived that plane crash, but I've never been one to question Providence. I'm Atlas, and I aim to keep you alive. Now keep on moving. We're gonna have to get you to higher ground. Take a deep breath and step out of the bathysphere. I won't leave you twisting in the wind. We're gonna need to draw her out of hiding, but you're gonna have to trust me.
I'll wrap you in a sheet.
Fuck. This game does get a bit scary.
Just a bit border. How do you like that, sister? Now, would you kindly find a crowbar or something? Bloody splicer, seal Johnny in before they... Goddamn splicers.
I didn't touch her! Come on, get up! What's the matter with you? I'm just kidding around!
Yeah, you guys see how difficult this is? It is very difficult. There's no blocking or anything. This wrench here becomes your best fucking friend. Would you look at that? Chains on his wrist.
Steady now. Your genetic code is being rewritten. Just hold on and everything will be fine.
This little fish looks like he just had his cherry popped. Wonder if he's still got some Adam on him. Let's buck weak. You're a weak chopper. This little fish ain't worth telling it with no big daddy. Yellow, always have been. You'll be no better off with a metal daddy, little fish. See you floating, alrighty.
Look, Mr. Bubbles, it's an angel. I can see light coming from his belly. Wait a minute, he's still breathing. It's alright. I know he'll be an angel soon.
Oh, I'm wearing headphones. That is just creepy. That is creepy hearing that in my headphones. Oh, that is creepy.
You alright, boyo? First time plasma's a real kick from a mule. But there's nothing like a fistful of lightning now, is there?
Oh boy.
Splicer! Give him the combo. Zap him, then whack him. 1-2 punch. Remember, the 1-2 punch.
Try and call the cops on me? Come back! Pretty cool. I just wanted some company. Come on. Yeah.
There we go. Oh, he's on fire! My quest arrow on. Did I turn my quest arrow on? Is he on? Quest arrow's on.
the unluckiest man in the world right now. But you're the only hope I'll ever see my wife and child again. Go to Neptune's bounty. Find my family, please.
There to sing this song. Hush. Mommy's gone. And Daddy too. Wait. This is happening before and none. Why aren't you here? Why is it today?
You ain't running, bitch.
Plasmids changed everything. They destroyed our bodies, our minds. We couldn't handle it. Best friends butchering one another. Babies strangled in cribs. The whole city went to hell.
Oh, I'm drunk. What's that? I got $1.
Too spiced up. Too spiced up. Nobody's gonna...
No.
Hey, Brenda, you care to tell me about that hole the size of Plymouth Rock coming out of your crapper going on 3 weeks now? Now, I ain't saying I'm Shakespeare. I'm trying to run a respectable theater. I got working folk coming in from Port Neptune trying to catch a little diversion. And all I can think about is the stink coming out of your shitter. Get it fixed.
Give me my
Come on.
Charlie! Charlie, where you going? What are you... Nah, Charlie!
Charlie. Oh, she's got a gun. Gun, gun, gun. Fuck you.
If you spot a splicer in the water, hit him with the electrobolt.
A lot of scavenging in this.
Another New Year's, another night alone. I'm out and you're stuck in Festus, working. Imagine my surprise. Oh, I guess I'll have another drink. Here's a toast to Diane McClintock, silliest girl in Rapture. Silly enough to fall in love with Andrew Ryan. Silly enough. What happened? I'm bleeding. Oh God. What's happening?
Bonk. I could get bonked.
Careful now. Would you kindly lower that weapon for a minute? You think that's a child down there? Don't be fooled. She's a little sister now. Somebody went and turned a sweet baby girl into a Everybody wants it. Everybody needs it.
Hey, I'm Jeff Keighley here in Boston.
Let's watch
We go
this.
behind the scenes to hear some untold stories about the making of BioShock with Ken Levine and Sean Robertson.
This will be something to watch during this, because there are some people that don't have this.
Let's talk a bit about the theme and setting of BioShock, Rapture. I think a lot of people, when they played the game for the first time, Ken, they wondered, how did you even dream up this place? And I know you've said publicly before that part of the reason you what led you to Rapture was this idea of fully simulating a place. Tell us about that sort of idea and the frustrations you had with other games where you sort of hit a bound.
I think our philosophy was always to do what we were doing 100% rather than try to do something bigger and do it 50% or 40%. So one of the ideas of, and this sort of came from System Shock 2 as well, where you focus on an area that you can really bring to life and you kind of eliminate the questions of, well, why can't I go over the bridge to New Jersey? So we were able to really make a place, I think, that felt believable and real, even though in actuality it was really quite limited. But we just sort of dressed it with all these buildings outside that were all, basically glorified fakes. We let the story drive what we needed to show rather than some kind of like predetermined map which we sat down, which is a little different than like System Shock 2, where we actually mapped a spaceship out deck by deck.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what the philosophy felt a little different there, because you want to feel like a real spaceship that was sort of stacked on top of each other. Rapture was free to sprawl across the ocean floor.
Although you guys originally, Sean, were talking about doing this game on a sort of spaceship again, right?
Yeah, when we first started talking about what the spiritual successor to System Shock 2 was going to be, spaceship came up, but again, we wanted a limited environment, and we didn't necessarily want to do spaceship again. And our first actual exploration of the space was underwater, but ultimately ended up looking like a spaceship. It just happened to have a couple of seaweed fronds outside. And that started to push us towards what artistic statement that we wanted to make this look different, and what rules we were going to set for the world. How at every turn we were going to try to remind the player that they were in fact underwater and that this wasn't a spaceship.
And how, like, underwater, we obviously know you did underwater, then sitting in the sky, like, where did you come with the idea of, like, doing this underwater?
I think there was probably a conversation. It's like, well, what kind of places could be cut off from other places?
Yeah.
Like, well, spaceship, summer camp, any island notion, right? Something that's cut off from the rest of the world.
Yeah.
So you never felt like you should be able
We'll
to...
be staying quiet during these so that you guys can listen.
I want to play some deep and meaningful conversation. I think it was one of those ideas that you just kind of say, and then everybody, that sounds cool, let's try that. Let's go for it.
And I think it lended itself to having very nice views out the window without having to build an insane amount of unique assets.
Right.
By today's standards, we still were a small team back then, and there's an expectation that because you're underwater, the view distances are going to be short, so you can really kind of fade out into the fog at a short distance and not have the expectation that, why can't I see forever? So there's a lot of limitations in a good way that we put on ourselves by being underwater, as opposed to, like, if you're on a cruise ship, then you'd expect to see across the water, and we'd have to deal with that. Same thing with an island.
Or on a City
outdoor.
in the Sky.
Yeah, exactly.
Which was a lot more complicated, yeah.
So you came up with the idea of let's do this underwater, let's do this sort of isolated place. Then you had to answer the question of why would someone build this? Is that sort of how it worked, sort of order of operations? You then had to come up with a story to explain?
Yeah, I think we wanted a very believable reason why they'd be there. And sort of the necessary isolation of the place sort of led to, well, what kind of person would want to do this? And I wasn't even particularly aware of the sort of political implications of what I was reading, but I've been reading, I had read The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand, and I mostly thought it was an interesting story. Like, I didn't realize that people were sort of basing their sort of political lives around it, because I wasn't that tuned in to that stuff at that point. And so, but I love the dialogue and the kind of speechifying in it, because you can see a video game character speaking with that kind of certainty and that kind of confident philosophy. It just seemed like a natural kind of thing to apply to this place. And so it just sort of all came together as a sort of who is the guy who would do this? Well, that character. It was sort of this amalgamation of characters from Ayn Rand's books and Ayn Rand herself. This sort of idealistic person who says, well, the only way to do this is to separate from the rest of the world. And that led to Andrew Ryan.
I am Andrew Ryan, and I'm here to ask you a question. Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his brow? No, says the man in Washington, it belongs to the poor. No, says the man in the Vatican, it belongs to God. No, says the man in Moscow, it belongs to everyone.
We knew from a technical standpoint that we wanted isolation. We also knew to sell it, we needed a compelling storyline, a backstory that why would this place exist? Otherwise, how are we going to make Rapture feel like it's lived in if we don't have the reason for it to be there? So once we decided on the underwater location and then the closed off spaces, that objectivist story kind of came in and made the art stronger and made the level design stronger, because we could feed back into that loop.
And I think that's why we had to have sort of Andrew Ryan's pitch right at the beginning of the game. We wanted people to understand why somebody would go there. And so he makes this very personal one-to-one pitch to the gamer, but also that was the pitch he'd make to people, which was, there's a place that you can be free of all these things, where you can not be sort of put upon by the government and not be afraid of nuclear war and not be afraid of all these other things that will plague you on the surface. We wanted that pitch to sort of resonate and make sense, because that's otherwise by the time you got there you'd be like, well, this place is just fantasy, nobody would ever come here. And that the beauty of the place also was also tied into that. It had to be a very attractive proposition, or people who would believe that people would go leave their lives and go to the bottom of the ocean.
I'm sure in some ways you had to convince the team and enroll them in your sort of vision of who this character was going to be and what the setting was going to be. How did that work, Sean? I mean, did Ken come in and say, hey, I've been reading these books, and I think we could sort of...
I believe he just came in one day on a horse and said, Ayn Rand, everybody read The Fountainhead.
Exactly. I bought 30 copies of it.
Yeah, I think,
here's a 2,000-page book or something.
Yeah.
Go read it.
And it really is more organic. Like I said, we knew that we had this location, and you struggle to fill it with stories, and you struggle to find meaning of why does this place exist, What's my motivation? And as Ken started to explore Ayn Rand a little more and started talking to us about it, and we were having that conversation, and it's like, oh, this could totally work. Like, this is exciting. Like, this is something that really hasn't been done in a video game before. And if we had flipped it and come up with the idea first before the location, I don't think we would have really been that excited about it. But we had a location, and now we're trying to fill it with that story, and because of the order of operation there, you start to get excited, like, oh, I could totally make this work. This is going to really make it feel like a lived-in space.
As you think of sort of the setting, and you think of maybe a character or something, was there a moment that you think back, it's like, oh, like right then and there, like I got excited when you attached the Ayn Rand
For me,
stuff
it was going to Rockefeller Center and seeing the visual. So I told this story before, but my wife and I were in New York, and we went to Rockefeller Center, which was, if you go to Rockefeller Center, it basically looks exactly like Rapture. It's because every building, you're sort of encircled. It's this block in New York, or a couple of blocks in New York, where Radio City Music Hall is, and where 30 Rockefeller Plazas. We used to see that show 30 Rock, and the ice skating rink, and where they put the Christmas tree. And it's this very iconic location. But what's cool about it, it's all one. Unlike the rest of the city, everywhere you look, it's one architectural style. It's Art Deco, and it's very iconic Art Deco. And my wife and I were there, and we were sort of working on the game, and we didn't have a visual style. And all of a sudden, I started looking around, and I said, "Oh, this could be a visual for the game." Also, the geometry of it was actually quite conducive to making a video game because it wasn't overly complicated geometry. Art Deco is quite
bold and simple,
bold and geometric, yeah, and simple. And so my wife and I bought a couple of tourist cameras before iPhone cameras, you know.
Throwaway cameras, yeah.
Yeah, throwaway cameras, those little Kodak things, and we just started photographing doorknobs and light fixtures, and sort of developed the photos. Remember that? Brought them in and said,
"Come to the office. Here's a stack of stuff.
Here's a stack of photos.
Take a look.
I'll see you guys in a couple of years. Go make this."
City where the artist would not fear the censor, where the scientist would not be bound by petty morality, where the great would not be constrained.
I don't know how long this is, but I know it's been going on for a long time, so if you guys want, I will do director commentary videos after.
So you had kind of a theme, you came up with an art style, some of the iconic characters, and then you really had to build the narrative around it. And you've talked about a lot of the themes in the game, and greed, jealousy, sex, violence, all the things that sort of drive us or what destroy us. And that was something I think that.
All right, so what I'm gonna do is I know that was going on for a very long time, and I don't want the whole video to be taken up by that. So I'll put a note through the through YouTube.
Go on then. Clean it up.
That will and that will show when to skip. So yeah, that went on for far too long. Headshots do a lot.
Security alert in progress.
I'm not a bad person!
Not a bad person, bitch. The fuck you talking about? I don't want to use bullets unless I have to. Hell. Director's cuts, when I looked up, they're about an hour long, so whoopsies. I did not know about that, but we will continue.
Oh, Christ! You're trapped! Gonna try to override the exit from here!
So tell me, friend, which one of the bitches sent you? The KGB wolf or the CIA jackal? Here's the news. Rapture isn't some sunken ship for you to plunder. And Andrew Ryan isn't a giddy socialite who can be slapped around by government muscle. And with that, farewell, or das Verdania, whichever.
Check my time.
Now you've met Andrew Ryan, the bloody king of Rapture. Now find your way to emergency access.
Oh boy. Finished. Fucky. This is gonna take a very long time. And it's a bitch to complete. Cause hacking is the best thing in the world. In this game. It's the most annoying thing in this game. It is the most annoying thing on the planet in this game.
Remember what Andrew Ryan says. If you do that, bandits win. Take your family to Fort Trump.
Dr. Steinman said he would leave today. Ryan didn't come to see me since the New Year's attack, not once. But Dr. Steinman was very attentive. He told me that once the scar tissue was gone, he was gonna fix me right up, make me prettier than any girl I've ever seen. He's sweet, all right. And so interested in my case.
Right, interested in cases for damn sure. You crazy bitch.
Keep away from my patient! Oh, love this. I just man. How can I help you?
bitch. She's gonna go heal. Fuck. Some health.
Welcome to the circus of value.
The other way, drone.
You promised me pretty, son. You promised me pretty. Now look at me. Look at me.
You keep an eye peeled for Steinman. But that bastard set up shop in the surgery wing. You want to find him? Just follow the blood.
Adam presents new problems for the professional. As your tools improve, so do your standards. There was a time.
Remember, all them machines will short out right prop if you hit them with electrohook.
Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on.
They differ from the pervert who prowls the streets looking for a victim he can ravish for his grotesque amusement.
should do them properly.
I am beautiful. Yes. Look at me. What did I do to make my features finer? With Adam and my scalpel, I have been transformed. But is there not something better? What if now it is not my skill that fails me, but my imagination?
You're crawling with disease! Cargo behaves inferior quality. Keep away from my treatment!
I can hear the infernal things all around you. Ryan's eyes and ears.
When Picasso became bored of painting people, he started representing them as humans and other abstract forms. The world called him a genius. I've spent my entire surgical career creating the same tired shapes over and over again. The upturned nose, the cleft chin, the ample bosom. Wouldn't it be wonderful if I could do with a knife what that old Spaniard did with a brush?
Rapture's still high for the win, boys.
Darling, is that vulgar little trout?
Light up foes to 1,000 degrees. Warning, fire spreads.
Come here now! Stop wasting my time, you horrid monster! Help me find it. This is our fate! How can I help you? Come to me!
All roads in Rapture lead to Ryan. Security, the splicers, the big daddies, the little sisters. He pumps some kind of chemical scent in the air. Pheromones, they call it. Makes them all dance to his tune.
Adore the summertime.
What the fuck?
Where are you going?
Alright, fuck it. almost out of my reach. Give it to me. 0451. 04. Yeah. What the fuck? I don't remember that. I'd say right there is a good spot to end it because, yeah, I'm ending it there, and I'm gonna do another one of these tomorrow because tonight at midnight, Operation Chimera comes out for Rainbow Six Siege, and I'll be streaming that. But I just saw